Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I'm going to be doing a quick question and answers today because I've been coming on here and doing a lot of Q&As just to get questions covered whilst people are in quarantine. If you have any questions you would like to ask in relation to OCD, please send them in now and I will cover those. Whatever your questions are in relation to OCD, I'm here to help you with that. Whilst a lot of people are in quarantine and it's very easy to get into a situation where you're feeling stuck or not very distracted, which is a common OCD anxiety technique to help with things. And so without that, it can be a bit difficult at times. So what I want to do is to help people whilst they're in quarantine and they're not in their usual structure. And anything you want to ask about OCD, start asking it now in the comments section here and I will have a look. Can I self-diagnose myself if I'm not available to get a good psychiatrist? Well, what is an OCD diagnosis? An OCD diagnosis is something that needs to be done by a professional who can follow a sort of tick box scenario of exactly what the main symptoms are that you're feeling to check to see if it is OCD. Now, that is done by a professional who understands OCD and can look at the situation and help have a look and see if there are if that is what you're suffering from. However, I would probably imagine, I wouldn't like to say a percentage, but I would say it's got to be. I wouldn't want to pick a percentage because I wouldn't be able to give an accurate answer. But a large portion of people with OCD never get a diagnosis. Why? Because they've got a pretty strong understanding that they've got it from ticking all the boxes themselves. And then they've sort of gone to work on it with a therapist or themselves through reading, got started, and then it's sort of gone along that path. So I'd say a large portion of people don't ever get a diagnosis. Now, should they get a diagnosis? Well, it's advisable to get a diagnosis, but you do not have to get one. That's a personal choice. I've met some amazing people that have gone from terrible suffering to recovery that never got a diagnosis. I see that many times. I often say to people, you should really go and get a diagnosis for this. And they say, no, I don't want to. I've got an understanding of what it is. I'm scared of this, that, and the other. I can see this is a problem. I can see this is what I want to get over. And that's completely understandable. And even if you asked a lot of people who've written books on OCD, people who've got whole blogs on OCD and so on, did you ever get a diagnosis? You'd find a large portion of them never did. Because it's very apparent to them. It's like how many people get a diagnosis for a lot of injuries that they should go to the doctor or to the physio from, or do they leave it? Well, they do. I mean, it's even like with the coronavirus situation. A lot of people have mild symptoms, never get a diagnosis, so the numbers never get written down. So the numbers are obviously a lot higher than the ones written down because a lot of people aren't reporting that they've got coronavirus, or only now when testing is up more, they're getting a diagnosis. But before they weren't getting a diagnosis because their country was obviously too full with coronavirus in the hospitals and people weren't testing much, whereas now testing goes up. So you do have to factor that in a bit to when you're reading things about sort of reports on coronavirus, but not going off track on that question too much. Let's go back to the first one. My neck is completely fucked from doing so much work on the phone, watching Netflix, and probably not doing enough exercise. So today I am not going to be on here for that long because I haven't got a tripod or anything for this iPhone, and there's no chance I'm going to be able to get into a physio or anything at the moment. So it won't be the longest Instagram live today. Why do we have OCD dreams? Because you're anxious all the time in the day, so it carries on into your dreams. The same as why if you watch a scary film, that often carries on into your dreams. Is there a specific emetophobia OCD dreaming? Well, emetophobia is treated usually in the best way through the CBT practice of sort of finding out what you're frightened of in relation to throwing up and vomiting, and then replicating both the vomiting sensation around the toilet or wherever it is you're scared of vomiting, so that you see that it's not awful, terrifying, and the scariest thing ever, but is actually something that you can stand and not the scariest. And when you do that, that's what gets you over that fear. Is intrusive thoughts based on fear? I still get constant intrusive thoughts, so I guess I still fear the theme. You fear the theme or the thoughts, that's what will be happening there. Hey, I've started feeling that what if everyone is wrong about OCD and my brain is right? Well, if everyone is wrong about OCD and your brain is right, what is it you're so scared about? Are there any mineral deficiencies related to OCD? Don't bother with diet changes too much. As long as you're eating a healthy diet, not eating sugar all day long, eating crap, and not doing any exercise at all, which I could actually possibly fall into the bracket of this week with this quarantine life. So I've got to sort that out. Are there any mineral deficiencies? Yeah. Well, no, forget. Don't get caught up in nutrition. There's so many online things that say, "Oh my God, I treated my anxiety with this special diet or whatever." It's complete nonsense the majority of the time, unless they had a real underlying health condition, some major stomach problem that was resulting in the anxiety. I wouldn't go with the diet situation. In some instances, yes. Like, for example, when the person is suffering from gastroesophageal reflux and you've got that coming up all the time, that can create anxiety. When that's solved, it can help reduce it. That can do that. It can create that sensation. But in terms of actual diets fixing anxiety, you see some people talking about it like some miracle diet changed everything. I've never seen it. I've never seen a case myself. Same thoughts from ages ago, all back since quarantine, makes me think that the thoughts aren't gone, just distracted. Yes, probably they might not be gone, just distracted, but without seeing what you're scared of, I'd have to have a look at it. But I imagine you are still concerned with those, or you are still waiting for the thoughts to go, or the content of the thoughts are still bothering you and you think it's a real risk in real life. What if OCD brain's right and others wrong because doctors still don't know the cause of OCD? Well, the OCD brain wouldn't be right because the OCD brain's the things it says is very, very irrational. So they wouldn't make sense in reality. So it couldn't be right. So that wouldn't be possible. Does OCD lead you to depression, Rob? No, because I don't suffer from OCD anymore, and it never led to depression for me. It does. It has for many people, but it just didn't for me. Let's have a look here. I have an 11-year-old son with OCD. He's been given the tools to help him, but he's refusing to use them. Should I wait it out and hope that he chooses to act? Well, you've got to wait. You've got to. You're 11 years old. No, you can't really wait too much. You're going to have to encourage that, because he's always going to want to stay in the comfort zone of not doing it. So you're going to really have to sort of get behind him on that. And it is a bit of a tough love approach with compassion. Otherwise, they don't tend to move forward. They want to stay in the comfort position. How to pass this lockdown time without proper medication. If you were on medication, well, you need to keep your medication up. If you weren't, you've just got to do the best you can. I imagine your fear might be, what if I can't survive without medication or something like that? But you could always get medication. But it depends on your personal situation. Is ruminating automatic or is it an action we control? Often it's automatic. How do you identify? And you have to bring the fear down first. And when the fear comes down, then it's not automatic anymore. Then you can start living your. Then it doesn't happen like that when the fear's down. So the main thing we've got to concentrate on is bringing the fear down first. How do you identify which thoughts are OCD thoughts and which are reality? You can't get certainty on that to satisfy OCD and calm it down. So you're just going to have to go along roughly with a general idea, doing the best you can, but you're not going to be able to get complete certainty. And you don't want to be like shifting and changing and acting on it, like dumping your partner or whatever, because it says so, because it won't bring relief. One side of my brain says that poo is just human waste, but other side of the brain says it's dirty, get out of my mind just to wash hands properly. Yeah, it would be about changing your beliefs in relation to that, to understand that and see what fears you have and what behavioural responses you've created in relation to that, breaking those down as well as bringing down the fear on it, and it's that combination that will get you better. If there's no such thing as right and wrong because they're created by human society, then what is considered right or wrong? Well, what is considered right or wrong is only what we tend to view it as so we choose what that is. So we know that murder seems like it's obviously not a very good thing for the person having it done to them and for us doing it. So we could probably say, yes, that is wrong. We could say clearly that is a wrong act, that is not a right act. But in terms of where it says that in the universe, it doesn't. In an army, a murder is regarded as a good thing if it's killing the enemy, or to get food, to kill an animal maybe. So it comes down to interpretation, but we tend to move in the general sense that's a wrong act. But where the exaggeration comes in our minds that gets us stuck is where we say it's beyond that. It's the end of the world if that happens, and so bad, and it makes the person wrong in totality. And that is not the case at all. How important is it to give up labelling people good, bad, gay, straight? Well, it depends what the labels are doing. I mean, the labels, they're never accurate. There's no such thing as a good human, a bad human. Gay is only part of sexuality. The human isn't gay. They're just part of their sexuality their sexuality is gay. So the labels aren't very helpful in that sense, but we do tend to use them in day-to-day life in our own minds, which I don't think is the end of the world, unless it's causing disturbance, but it's probably better to move away from that. So what do you do for a living outside of this work? I don't do anything for a living outside of this work because it's bloody full on doing this. I'm working 6 to 7 days a week doing this all day long, so I don't have any other time to do anything else. What I do is working with a lot of people, and running all the groups and everything. Is a huge amount of work and looking after all the people going through the recovery journey, as well as upkeeping all the social media and all the stuff like that. So it's very full on. Do you think that there's something that an OCD person shouldn't do in comparison to a person without OCD? Like, is there a limit to triggers in your opinion? Do you think there's something that an OCD person... No, I'm not too concerned about that. Just face fears and move towards it. That's an important part of life. Can OCD lead to catastrophic thinking? Yes, we often catastrophize. I have a lot of thought processes. I don't know whether they are reality or thought processes. Stop trying to work them all out. That's the problem. Why health OCD, like dementia, actually happens, the functioning of memory, and actually, I'm not going to go into that. It's a bit off topic. Functioning memory and actuality. I mean, is your fear getting dementia? If your fear is getting dementia, then we'll have a look at that. How did you get rid of it? I'm so happy to know it's possible. Well, that's a bit of a broad question. Is what this page is all about. But if you have a look in detail, you'll see that I can't answer sort of how do you get OCD recovered in one question. There's a lot to it in terms of what it took. But yeah, all the page and everything all describes the journey. Does OCD give headaches? Yes, headaches were often a very common thing for me. Is self-help books help in OCD recovery? How can you suggest some book? Is self-help books help in OCD recovery? Yes, if the right books, like the books on my reading list, are very helpful for OCD, but there's many that aren't very helpful and don't do much. I certainly read many of those. My intrusive thoughts have calmed down a lot, but now I'm having feelings which create other thoughts, kind of hard to explain. You're probably scared of the feelings. I've started feeling that what if my OCD brain is right and others are wrong? What if it's not any disorder? Well, it's about looking at what you're scared of, what the content is there, what you're frightened of that could be so wrong. Having a look at that. What is the worst scenarios in case you expose too much anxiety? Well, the worst too much anxiety is you just experience a lot of anxiety. Would you say you still have OCD and now know to live it? No, I can't tell the difference between having it or not. There's no OCD. It's not even there. For a tiny thought now and again, irrelevant. It's not putting up with it and just having to live with it. It's not having it. It's not there. It's not even. I can't tell the difference in day-to-day life. But if you went and had a look, do I still have OCD? Yes, it's still there. They've shown that you can't get rid of it. People who say cure it, that's absolute bullshit. You will have it, but you won't be able to notice it. But it will still be able to come in at times. But when you're on top of it, it's so minute it doesn't even matter. When should I get off of medication? I've been on medication for 10 years, but if I'm off medication, I feel bad. But when you're more balanced would be the time to then start reducing it. But it's not essential at this point. Thank you. So it's not essential. You can stay on meds for a long time. It's a benefit to get off them, but even if you're on a long time, it's not the end of the world. But coming down off them at some point is not a bad idea, but when you're balanced. Thank you. Wanting to go to the army isn't something you think will be too much for me because it's difficult. You're from Israel. You're in the army in Israel. It might be challenging. I'd be 50-50 on it. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's a good idea or a bad idea. You can still do it, but there are risks with it. I read a book called Overcoming Intrusive Thoughts and said that intrusive thoughts always feel fake. I personally think that's no, they don't. They feel as real as they can possibly get, usually. Otherwise, you wouldn't care about them. What's the difference between OCD and just feeling guilty for doing something genuinely bad? You're not going to be able to work that out in your head to feel the difference. So don't try and work that out. Just leave that as it is, because you won't be able to tell. I'm just to say, Rob, your beard is amazing. Well, thank you very much. I don't know how to answer that question. Hi Rob, I'm in a relationship with a woman. My OCD feels as though it's now linked with second guessing my sexual orientation. Yeah, sexual orientation, it links into our OCD because you're scared of having to get rid of the relationship, end the relationship, whatever, all that kind of stuff. That's what's causing the problem. So we don't want to, it's about keeping going with the relationship, not trying to alter the course of where we're trying to move, where we're in line with our goals. I'm not convinced my girlfriend is just my friend, and we'll try and pull any of those kind of things. Let's have a look here. With having OCD, you'll never know the answer to uncertainty. What should I do with that? I sometimes feel uncomfortable. Yeah, it's only because you're not comfortable yet with uncertainty and you've still got probably many irrational beliefs. So we need to get under those ones that are fueling it, and that will help release it. What are the risks you think I might have with the army? What should I take into consideration? Well, the army is probably going to be a high-stress situation. If you've already got OCD, I imagine it could make you more liable to developing other anxiety disorders like potentially PTSD if you're in like a combat position. Other than that, there's many people. I mean, I work with a lot of people that are in the army. I work with a lot of police from all over the world that are heads of SWAT teams in combat situations all the time, and lots of them are fine, and some others have had problems. So it's you can't say exactly. Does staying on medication for the long haul cause any side effects? In the long haul, it will cause side effects when you're on it. It doesn't tend to do damage from what I've by any means, but it can be unhelpful for other sort of health things at the time. But I don't think really any major long-term. One second. Yes, on certain medications, they can cause, like even with stomach tablets for gastroesophageal reflux disorder, Meprazole can cause more likely to develop osteoporosis. Yes, there will be some risks, but overall the risk, it doesn't tend to be that great in relation to the risk of not being able to even function and live your life. Making lists is a very common OCD thing. I used to do that. You need to give up the list making because that's fueling so much of the problem. Is Catholic guilt responsible for most of my religion-themed OCD in the past? Blasphemy-related ones was a major problem in the past, but now is it's still a problem in different parts of the world and with lots of people who are religious, but it was much more so in the past. My OCD focuses on symptoms really hard. Is that health OCD? It can be a variation of different OCD, but it can be very much in the health in the health section as well. Can exercise help with OCD? Help with it, not cure it, but help with it for sure. For someone who believes they could have OCD, how do you suggest they bring it up with their doctor? Just bring it up and see what happens. How can you tackle those irrational beliefs without turning into reassurance or another mental compulsion? You tackle those irrational beliefs bit by bit each day, not for too long, and you don't go around sort of wearing them like a suit of armour trying to deflect everything. I just sometimes feel like I want to get proof from someone this OCD. You're never going to be able to get proof to satisfy its OCD. I get messages, hundreds of those a day. You're not going to. It's about learning to see that even if it wasn't OCD and learning to change your perspective on that, why that would be so scary, which can feel very daunting at first, but when you learn to understand how to change your perspective and see things more rationally, you can learn to do that, as well as in cases like, for example, the existential OCD, where it won't be so easy to do that, learn to live with uncertainty, change our relationship with the OCD, and so on. All of that stuff helps get in there and underneath it. Okay, thank you, Rob. I'd like it if you could talk with me about it more in private to help me figure out how to look at it, because I'm not sure I should do it. Okay, I'll talk to you about that, Yam, for sure. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave now, and I will be back on another Instagram live soon, and I will speak to you guys all then. Probably, let me think, probably tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow about this time. All right, guys, see you later. Take it easy.